The light never turns off by itself. Clara, a 27-year-old nurse, had just moved into an old apartment in the center of a small town after years of exhausting hospital shifts. She was looking for a quiet place to start over. The apartment, on the third floor of a faded brick building, was surprisingly affordable, with large windows that let in sunlight and a view of a silent square. The realtor, a middle-aged man with a forced smile, only mentioned that the building was full of stories, but Clara, exhausted and eager for a new chapter, paid it no mind. The apartment was simple, with peeling walls and a wooden parquet floor that creaked under her steps. Clara had brought few belongings: a bed, a wooden table, some books, and a struggling plant. She liked the idea of a minimalist space where she could focus on herself. However, on the very first night, something strange happened. As she was getting ready for bed, Clara turned off the bedroom light. But seconds later, it turned back on by itself. Confused, she checked the switch, but it was still in the off position. Assuming it was an electrical fault, she tried to ignore it and went back to sleep. The next night, it happened again. Clara turned off the light, but it switched on again, the bulb emitting a faint, almost imperceptible hum this time. A chill ran down her spine. It wasn't just the light. It felt as though something was watching her, as if the very room was alive. Clara decided she needed to investigate. But what began as curiosity soon became a nightmare. In the first few days, Clara tried to rationalize the problem. She called an electrician, who checked the wiring and said everything was fine. Maybe it's the switch, he suggested. But after testing it repeatedly, the light stayed off. Satisfied with the explanation, Clara resumed her routine, working at the hospital by day and organizing the apartment at night. But the phenomenon persisted, every night, without fail. The bedroom light would turn itself back on minutes after being switched off. One night, while reading in bed, Clara heard a sound coming from the hallway, a faint dragging noise, as if something were brushing against the floor. She stood up, holding her book like an improvised weapon, and checked the apartment. Everything was in place, but the feeling of being watched was overwhelming. When she returned to her room, she noticed something new: the shadow of an indistinct figure projected on the wall, as though someone was standing under the light. But no one was there. Clara turned off the light, and the shadow vanished, but her heart was pounding so fast she could barely sleep. The following day, she began noticing other strange details. Objects would change places. Her hairbrush appeared in the bathroom, though she was sure she'd left it on the dresser. A glass she used for water was in the sink, though she didn't remember putting it there. And every time the light turned on by itself, Clara would hear a faint whisper, almost inaudible, like a muffled voice speaking words she couldn't understand. Determined to understand what was happening, Clara started talking to her neighbors. Most were reserved, but an elderly woman named Dona Margarita, who lived on the first floor, seemed to know more than she said. After some insistence, Margarita shared a disturbing story. Decades ago, Clara's apartment belonged to a woman named Isabel, a widow who lived alone. Isabel was known for her obsession with light, never allowing her apartment to be in darkness. Neighbors said she kept the lights on day and night, and some claimed to hear screams coming from her apartment. One night, Isabel vanished. The police found the apartment empty, with all the lights and no sign of struggle. The theory was that she had fled, but Margarita believed otherwise. Isabel had been taken by something that lived in the building. The light never turns off by itself here, the old woman said with a distant look. It's as if something needs it to exist. A chill ran through Clara. But she tried to stay rational. She searched the local library and found a yellowed newspaper article about Isabel's disappearance. It mentioned that other residents had reported strange phenomena before she vanished. Flickering lights, moving shadows without a source, and whispers at night. The article ended with an intriguing note. One of Isabel's personal belongings, a silver-framed hand mirror, had been found shattered on her bedroom floor. Events in the apartment began to escalate. One night, Clara was awakened by the sound of shattering glass. She ran to the living room and found a mirror she had brought from home smashed on the floor, the shards scattered in a pattern that seemed to form a circle. The bedroom light was on, though she was sure she had turned it off before sleeping. As she approached the switch, she felt cold breath on the back of her neck, as if someone was standing right behind her. Clara spun around, but there was no one there. Desperate, she began keeping a diary of the events. She recorded each time the light turned on by itself, every strange noise, every shadow that seemed alive. One night, while writing, the light flickered violently and the diary was yanked from her hands, falling open to a blank page. To her horror, words began appearing on the paper in a shaky handwriting. "You cannot turn it off. I see." "You," Clara screamed and ran into the hallway, pounding on Margarita's door. The old woman, though frightened, led her in and suggested she seek spiritual help. Clara, who had never believed in the paranormal, was beginning to change her mind. She contacted Father Duo, a local priest known for dealing with strange cases. He visited the apartment and performed a blessing. But during the ritual, all the building's lights flickered, and a piercing scream echoed down the corridor, as if something were furious. Father Duo suggested that Clara investigate the mirror mentioned in Isabel's article. She searched the apartment and, at the back of a closet, found a silver-framed hand mirror identical to the description. It was intact, but when Clara looked into it, she did not see her own face. She saw a pale woman with sunken eyes and a crooked smile. She dropped the mirror, which shattered on the floor, and the bedroom light flared to a blinding brightness. That night, Clara had a dream. She was in a dark hallway with doors on both sides. Each door she opened revealed a scene from Isabel's past, a lonely woman sitting in her room, staring at the mirror as the lights flickered. In one scene, Isabel seemed to be speaking to something invisible, her eyes full of fear and resignation. In the final scene, Clara saw the woman being dragged away by shadows, while the bedroom lights stayed on. When she woke, Clara found the mirror repaired, placed beside her bed. She knew she had to act. With Margarita's help, she contacted a medium named Dona Helena, who agreed to investigate the apartment. Helena felt an oppressive energy as soon as she stepped inside. "There is something trapped here," she said, "something that uses the light to manifest." Helena conducted a ritual in the apartment, using candles, salt, and prayers. She asked Clara to hold the broken mirror, now mysteriously intact, and look into it while reciting words of protection. As the ritual continued, the bedroom light began to flicker and the temperature dropped. Shadows formed on the walls, taking the shape of a female figure with glowing eyes. Helena shouted for Clara not to look away from the mirror, even as the figure approached, its skeletal hands reaching for her. Trembling, Clara held the mirror firmly. In the reflection, she saw Isabel's face clearly now. "Begging for help. She is trapped," Helena said. "The mirror is what keeps her here." In an act of courage, Clara hurled the mirror against the wall, shattering it into 1,000 pieces. A deafening scream echoed, and the bedroom light went out for the first time, plunging the apartment into darkness. When the light returned, all was calm. The mirror was destroyed, and the oppressive presence was gone. Helena explained that Isabel had been the victim of a botched ritual, trapped in the mirror by a force that fed on light. By breaking the mirror, Clara had freed her spirit. In the following days, Clara researched more about the building. She discovered that before Isabel, other tenants had reported similar phenomena. All linked to the same apartment, an old document revealed that the building had been constructed over land where strange rituals were performed in the previous century, and Isabel's mirror was an artifact used to channel those energies. Clara decided to move out. She could no longer live in the apartment, even if the presence was gone. Before leaving, she wrote a letter for the next tenant, warning them of the place's history. The light never turns off by itself unless you face it years later. Clara turned her experience into a book titled The Light Never Turns Off by Itself. The book became a success, blending horror and hope. She never returned to the building, but heard rumors that new tenants still reported lights turning on by themselves. Now living in a larger city, Clara had learned to value the darkness and never to underestimate the power of a reflection. The end.